Welcome to my 2021 presidential address. It is a great honour and gives me enormous pleasure to be your new president for the year 2021-22. This year the address is once again pre-recorded and brought to you virtually due to the ongoing World Health problems. A number of events and lectures will also continue to be brought to you in this way for the remainder of 2021, but it is hoped there will be face-to-face events later in my programme. It was only when I started to write this inaugural speech I began to realise how long I had worked in the railway industry. I recall how it all only came to be a career in the first place due to the timing of a replacement advertisement on my school's notice board. Employment was difficult to find in the 1970s, and so I decided on a career in the Navy. Having had my first interview to join the armed forces, a vacancy appeared on the notice board advertising for a trainee technician in the crew divisional telecoms department of British Rail. No harm in giving it a go, I thought. My father was working in the operations department of the railway and it seemed to suit him. After the all-important railway interview in an office long since demolished in favour of a car park, the rest, as they say, is history. On the 5th of September 1977, at the tender age of 16, I turned in for my first shift. I attended a short induction with the area telecoms engineer Brian Arthurs. I was issued with a few pieces of vital information and was whisked away to the telephone exchange in nearby Tommy's Lane by Supervisor George Fisher. The Stranger Exchange was where I spent the first part of my formative years. Duties included cleaning the two motion selectors, repairing station clocks and setting the governors on mechanical telephone dials to ensure they operated at the correct speed. I also had great pleasure of working here with Paul Darlington and his future father-in-law, Arthur Edwards. I did not spend long in the exchange as a result of moving into the drawing office in Railhouse Crew, transferring from the telecoms part and into the signalling part of the S&T in the post of a junior technical officer. There were somewhat sad times in many ways, as a lot of the work I was to embark on involved the recovery of redundant signalling assets. British Rail was in decline and life had become more and more about patch and mend or recover if it was not really needed. Many sidings were closed, lines reduced to single bidirectional operation and junctions were rationalised. However, working in the design office is where I learned the foundation of signalling, something I believe is a huge benefit to all budding signal engineers and should be seized upon early in careers wherever possible. By the mid-1980s I started to work as a weekend assistant with the testing department, which brought two major advantages. One was learning how circuits on pieces of paper became something tangible, and two, time and three-quarter payments for working on a Sunday. The thrill of the circuit changeover to commissioning, followed by setting to work and ensuring it all operated correctly, has never left me. I moved into the testing department permanently in 1985, following on from my work on crew station remodelling. Though I reluctantly moved back into design in Birmingham in 1989, following the crew divisional office closure, although this did expose me to some new ventures, two of which were notable. The first was that I worked for a year or so on the development of the proposed new Channel Tunnel terminal, which was going to be built underneath King's Cross Station, proving that not everything you do becomes a reality, with Waterloo eventually being chosen as the terminus. This proved a touch ironic when the station finally ended up being next door to King's Cross at St Pancras. The second notable event was that for the first time I had become a manager, leading a small group of young new starters that I could start to develop in a way that I had been afforded the opportunity some years earlier. 1992 witnessed the move to testing again, with the setting up of a new organisation within the Birmingham Signalling Project Group, where I took on the role of the assistant T&C engineer. By now the projects were getting larger and more complex, leading to me taking on the role of the tester in charge for the delivery of the new signalling in the Merseyside area, including the new integrating electronic control centre at Sandhills in Liverpool. There were 7 SSI interlockings commissioned in total on the loop and link area, along with many level crossings, all of which had been controlled from local signal boxes up to this point. I also took on the part-time role as a tester trainer, implementing the testing modules created by British Rail resulting from the Hidden inquiry following on from the Clapham accident in December 1988. This was a further opportunity to develop others and to certificate those already trained, bringing additional structure and rigour to a process that had remained little changed for a long time. The teaching and the assessments were carried out at a training centre near Stafford Station and were a thoroughly enjoyable experience, teaching me a lot as well as the attendees. The mid-1990s saw the privatisation of British Rail and a move for me from the public into the private sector, now working for Balfour Beatty. From this point on, I undertook many different roles following numerous reorganisations, some positions with large groups of staff, some where I worked entirely on my own. This was undoubtedly the biggest challenge of my career so far, with everything becoming commercialised and experience a realisation that the railway did not belong to us anymore. Railtrack now owned the infrastructure, trains were being painted different colours depending on who ran them, and permission was needed to go on a site visit. That said, the end of the century brought great interest for me when I became the project engineer on the Norwich to Cromer re-signalling project, introducing several VHLC interlockings and HXP3 predictor technology from the USA into the UK. Working with Vaughan Harman, who later became GE, I produced many friendships, some of which happily remain as good today. Not only did that period involve exciting signalling work in a lovely part of the world, but there was a total solar eclipse and the UEFA Euro 2000s to keep us entertained. Following on a few years into the next century, another large change swept through my career as Signalling Solutions Limited, a joint venture between Balfour Beatty and Alstom, was formed in October 2007. I was fortunate to be chosen as the engineering director for the new business, largely responsible for rolling out Smart Lock 400 into the UK, merging the UK requirements with a worldwide platform. This has now become the second time I've been involved in the introduction of new technology into the UK, which eventually happened with the commissioning of the first UK interlocking at Horsham, controlled from the Three Bridges Signalling Centre. The changeover was exceptionally smooth, and many of the precautions we had put in place just in case did not come to fruition. In 2013, I took a further change in direction when I joined Atkins to head up their engineering management team. However, just like the early days of privatisation, the business was trying to reinvent itself, and I found myself as a technical director of Future Signalling Systems and now part of the SNC Levelling Group after they purchased Atkins in 2017. For the third time, I now found myself looking at introducing new technology into the UK. Using GE's Electrologics platform, my team developed a process for automating a lot of the data design and testing. By the time this was in operation, GE had been bought by Alstom. Certainly the only thing that is constantly in our industry is change. I retired from Atkins in 2019, having completed 41 years in railway signalling, telecoms, systems and technology, fully intending to put my feet up. However, it did not quite work out that way, and strangely I returned to working with Balfour Beatty again, helping to re-establish their signalling capability after they sold their previous organisation to Alstom and Signalling Solutions was no more. This was an opportunity not to be missed, as it's exceedingly rare that you can start with a blank canvas and turn it into something successful in this way. I'm not sure when my next retirement will come along just yet. My involvement with the IRSE is a thread that runs through all my work roles. I first started to attend talks in the early 1980s and was elected to the committee of the UK Midland North Western section not long afterwards, a position I still hold, having acted as secretary for several years as well as chairman. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that these talks and visits helped me to understand how the railway systems work and often covered areas that were outside my day-to-day experiences. I have attended many conventions and aspect conferences since 2005 and find these a great source of learning and opportunities to generate great friendships in many different parts of the world. It is true to say that I would probably not have visited anywhere near as many countries as I have if it was not for the IRSE. With some close to home and some further afield, learning has often been coupled with holidays. I've been a member of the Membership and Registration Committee for many years and was chair of the Audit Committee for some years, a role now undertaken by Ian Allison. I was elected to council in 2014, which was an immensely proud moment for me. I was then invited to join Management Committee in 2018 and became Junior Vice President in 2019. The theme I've chosen for my presidential year is the age of the intelligent railway. Many will be aware of programmes within different administrations across the world to introduce the digital railway, but it's not always entirely clear what that means. I've witnessed many who have argued that we have a digital railway already and have had for a long time, ever since electronic interlockings were introduced in the mid-1980s. However, the opportunity to further digitise railway systems remains an option. An incredible amount of data is generated every day within a railway network by the signalling systems, by the trains, power systems, to name but a few. The data is largely collected and stored but never reused or analysed. What I wish to explore during my time as President is how we can use this data in different ways, creating a greater understanding of how the components of the railway system work and interact with each other. This may be achieved by combining different sources of data, by introducing machine learning, or maybe identifying additional sources of information that could be collected to complete a picture. Analysis can then start to predict the future by looking at trends, providing information to technicians when a component is beginning to fail and needs to be replaced, reducing failures, reducing train delays, and improving the end user experience. Further, I hope to explore what happens elsewhere in other industries and how we can learn from what they do. My theme for the year will be introduced by a paper next month, which will consider measurement systems and machine learning. Balfour Beatty is currently installing large numbers of event and condition monitoring systems on the UK rail network, which feed data into their central system for processing. By using the processed data, information can be fed back to network rail at various levels to give them the correct level of understanding how the network is performing and where remedial efforts need to be focused. Matt Fern of Nikon Balfour Beatty will discuss the journey that the company has been on and look at how the future of maintenance and components renewals may be changed and become proactive. The year will continue with delivery of a further 6 papers that will explore topics to support my theme. In August, Martin Rosenberger will discuss the global developments around axle counters and how train detection is changing. This will then be followed by Paul Hendricks in October, looking at the subject of big data in a paper that was prepared for the International Technical Committee. Rajendra Dradhath from WebTech will present a paper in November that will be looking at data analytics using machines. Thailand is the destination for January 2022, where it is proposed to introduce a series of 6 short papers on topics of local interest, followed in March by Dave McGorman of the Unipark Group talking about innovating innovation. The 7th and final paper will be presented in March by Professor Tang of China's Beijing Jiaotong University, looking at how China manages their 21st century high-speed rail network. In October 2021, I have planned a repeat of the Joint Institution seminar hosted by Daniel Woodland in 2020. A number of papers will be pre-recorded for members to watch at their leisure prior to a live question and answer session. This type of event provides an excellent opportunity for members of different institutions and industry trade bodies to come together, exchanging views and information to the benefit of all. The theme of the event is still to be fixed, but the intention is to fit it in with my overall theme for the year. This will be a virtual event again this year, enabling people from around the world to join on the occasion. I'm currently working with a committee based in the UK and India to organise a joint IRSE and IRSTE seminar based in Delhi in late February 2022. The event will be over 3 days in total, during which time it is planned to present a series of papers over 2 days and have site visits on 2 of the days to items of local interest. It will be streamed around the world, but it is hoped that people will be able to attend in person, subject to the developing world health situation. There will be an opportunity for companies to display their products and for delegates to see firsthand some of the newest technology in the international signalling market. This should prove an extremely exciting event in a vibrant country. I recall my last visit to Delhi for the convention in October 2010 and fond memories of the event and the holiday my wife and I took in Darjeeling and Kerala afterwards. As time passes, just like many other organisations, the IRSE needs to relentlessly adapt to meet the new challenges in a constantly changing environment. I will continue the good work delivered by previous presidents, working with the sections of our global organisation to ensure that we continue to deliver our charitable objectives and continue to protect the safety of those who travel and work on our railway systems around the world. The process of modernisation of our institution has started with the formation of the Governance Review Working Group. The group will look at streamlining our administration processes and embracing modern technology and methods of communication, but retaining tradition where appropriate. This work will continue through my year and beyond. Other areas that are currently being considered include how our global membership can better be represented. After all, the institution belongs to every single member. The origin of the institution was in the UK, but now nearly 50% of the membership is outside the country, and this needs to be considered in all that we do. Virtual meetings help a lot in this area, but different time zones around the world complicate matters again. The COVID pandemic has certainly forced the world to adapt quickly and do things in unique ways. The last year alone has seen the introduction of an online annual general meeting, witnessed a huge increase in the number of people attending lectures, and seen governance meetings held virtually, to quote 3 examples. Committee meetings have been held remotely and institution staff have all been working from home. Who would have thought a little over a year ago that we would be attending online technical visits to train depots and manufacturing facilities? It was my intention, in a similar way to previous presidents, to visit as many local sections around the world as possible, particularly those who have not received a presidential visit for some time. World circumstances have necessarily changed my plans, and there have been less personal visits this year, but it is hoped that some will take place towards the end of 2021 and early into 2022. I look forward to serving as your President over the next year, and I hope that you'll be able to join me for at least some of the papers, seminars and visits, whether that be in person or by some form of modern communication technology. Thank you.